Graphs let you visualize your data. Let's look at the table on the left. It shows the ethnic makeup of Valencia College in the fall of 2021. The first column lists the ethnicities, and the second column tells how many students are in each category. Now let's look at the graph on the right. Notice that the table and the graph have the same title. A title explains what you are seeing. It shouldn't just be table. Instead, include a description of what is in the table or in the graph. A bar graph works perfect to display this type of information. I made this bar graph from the information on the table. A bar graph works well when you have categories for a column instead of a number. A bar graph allows you to quickly compare the categories. In a bar graph, you list the categories along the horizontal side of the bar graph. Each category must have its own bar. Along the vertical side of the bar graph, I created a scale and gave it a label. The label shows what information is quantified on the scale. The scale is made up of equal intervals. Notice how the first interval is 5,000. This means that we want every interval to be spaced 5,000 apart. The height of each rectangle or bar shows the quantity or value listed on the vertical scale. Both the table and the bar graph show the same information, but isn't it easier to see the relationship of the different ethnic groups in the bar graph? Bar graphs help you visualize data and compare categories quickly. Our next table shows a comparison of the number of Hispanic and Caucasian students enrolled at Valencia College since 2010. The first column of the table tells us the years since fall 2010. This tells us the year that the data was collected. In our first row, we have a 0 here. This means 0 years since fall 2010. So this data on the first row was collected in fall 2010. Now let's look at the last row. We have 11 here. This means it's been 11 years since fall 2010. So this data in the last row was collected in fall 2021. Now let's look at the line graph on the right. You'll notice it has the same title as the table on the left. Remember, it's important to describe what you're seeing in the graph or the table and not just to write graph or table as its title. A line graph has an x-axis that runs horizontally and a y-axis that runs vertically. Each axis has a label that describes what it is measuring on that axis. There's also a scale on each axis. You must use the same interval on each axis. So for example, on our x-axis here, you can see that there are 5 blocks between each number. So 5 blocks represents 1 unit. I need to continue that the entire way along my x-axis. Now on the y-axis, I have a different scale, but once again, the interval needs to be the same throughout the axis. 5 boxes here represents 2,000 students. So I want every 5 boxes to add 2,000. Each dot on the line graph represents an ordered pair or a point. The ordered pair shows a relationship between the years since fall 2010 and the number of students. You'll notice that there are 2 separate lines, a green line and a blue line. This is because on our table, we have 2 sets of data. The first set of data is the years since fall 2010 and the number of Hispanic students. This is represented by the green line. The second set of data is the years since fall 2010 and the number of Caucasian students. This is represented by the blue line. Notice that both sets of data share the years since fall 2010, and that's why we're able to put them on the same graph. The line graph lets you compare the number of students of each population quickly. You can see that the number of Caucasian students is decreasing, and the number of Hispanic students at Valencia is increasing. You can also estimate the number of years since fall of 2010 where the populations were equal. Line graphs are effective when you want to show changes and trends over time. They're also useful for comparing lots of data all at once. Bar graphs are handy when you want to compare categorical data.